What is up, everyone? Welcome to We Have Cool Friends, our new show where we prove to you, yes, in fact, we do have people who want to hang out with us. And yes, in fact, they are pretty cool. To my right, co-hosting this segment is going to be Mr. Tim Gettys.
Let's host, exactly.
And to my left, very excited to have you, gentlemen. Here we have Ken Napzok and Mark Ellis from the Schmoedown hanging out with us, among other things.
No, you can go ahead and clap.
I'm clapping for you, sir.
You're not clapping for
Mark making his return here.
Making my
That's
return.
kind of
Still
funny
not offered a beverage to have on set, but
we offer, that is a blatant
double
wow.
fisting
Hey
two
man, there's
beverages.
not enough LaCroix for you here.
In fact, I said to you right before we started, I was like, you guys know you can shout out for anyone in that other room to get you something. They may or may not do it.
No, you offered me that last time I was here.
Yeah.
And I kind of abused my power a little bit because we did the morning show and then I think we did the podcast in the afternoon. I was like, I'm just going to yell the word beer and see what happens. And magically, an IPA showed up.
If you yell beer right now, you will get an IPA showing up. I
think we're out of
Are we at IPAs? You'll get a LaCroix. You'll get a LaCroix immediately if you yell beer. That's what's going to happen.
That's what I always like try to trick myself into thinking. Like if I'm trying to not drink as much during the week, I'm like, you know what, Mark? It's not the beer, it's not the alcohol that you crave. It's just that fizzy, those cold bubbles. So maybe I could just have like a Pamplemousse LaCroix or whatever that flavor is.
Yeah.
Pamplemousse, dude. Don't hate on the moose. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, if you
It's
guys
the pink
want,
can.
on your way out, you've seen we still have a apocalyptic style amount of old LaCroix. And I'm sure at this point, I don't know if this shit goes bad or not, but at this point, it's gotta be bad.
Scientifically, it doesn't.
Now you total nonsense. We're already off the fucking rails. It doesn't matter. You were like, dude, we're gonna get through that LaCroix in 6 months after it got delivered. It's been 3 years. It's been
has
three
not.
whole
No.
years.
You guys have slowed me down. That's the problem. Is we give Cool Greg too much shit to do that actually matters instead of just restocking the fridge.
You could just go out there and get. The problem is this though. It all came in. They're in. What is it? What's that paper? The helmet.
Cardboard?
Yes, thank you. Jesus Christ.
Wow.
That's where we're at. That's where we're at.
And you do
What's that
stand-up.
brown? Oh yeah. Well, I attempt stand up, which we're gonna do tonight, by the way. So, love to pimp that show, but that was like 4 weeks ago. But you guys have lots of stuff coming up.
They
We'll
still
pimp
have
those in a
LaCroix,
second.
trust
Yeah. No, but the problem is all of the cardboard is like molded over now.
Yeah.
So I'm staying away from that.
So now
like
there's
crazy.
a process where they have to get brought in and then washed,
Yeah.
and then cleaned and
We
then
have to cleanse
dried
them.
and then put into the fridge.
You have to harvest your LaCroix?
It's hard, man. It's a hard life out here for a pimp, but someone has to do it.
Just imagine like caring for a can of LaCroix like it's a baby duckling that got some oil on it and you just gotta
It's literally like the Exxon spell, where like Cool Greg is just scrubbing each individual can and then puts them there. And the second he puts them down, Tim just picks it up and pours it into this mega thing he's got going
But then
on
every
there.
once in a while they get like coconut and shit. No one wants that.
No.
Give me the
No.
moose. Give me the moose.
I like the moose.
The moose. So you guys, we are up here for a show tonight. We're going to be doing a show at Milk Bar. But this is not the only one you guys have done. Like, let's kick this off. Let's talk about the tours that you guys are doing right now.
Yeah, so I've been a comic for a long time,
Yeah.
and it's been fun doing a tour recently because of our relatively newfound notoriety, I guess. Because I started headlining clubs maybe 3-4 years ago-ish. I'd been doing headlining gigs, but not really exclusively. And so now that's pretty much what I get to do most of the time. And you get to...
So for the audience, let's back up real quick. 'Cause
Yeah.
for the audience, they basically everyone that watches these... Who are you? Who are you? Everyone that watches this podcast, basically their behind the scenes knowledge of stand-up comedy is based off of all of the terrible mics that I have hosted. That is where it starts and stops. So can you explain, let's even go back and dial it back further. What does to headline mean?
So to headline is if you're doing a comedy show on the road at a comedy club, you are the main act. You're the one on the poster. You're the one that's doing an hour of stand-up. You have some openers. You have somebody who come on and host for 10 or 15 minutes. You have a couple feature acts that will do 15, 20 minutes maybe. And then you're the headliner, so you're the one that's going up, and it's your job to sell the tickets and entertain the crowd and take pictures afterwards and do all that fun stuff. And so every night when you headline, it's kind of like if you're like watching Netflix or something, you see somebody streaming special, that's what they're doing.
Right. And so at what point did you just say to yourself, or at what point does it happen that you go, I'm a headliner now?
It's a very gradual,
When do you proclaim yourself?
glacial.
Do you get to decide you're a headliner, or does someone else kind of bestow that upon you?
Well, I mean, I guess it's different in clubs, right? If you're at the store, they have to decide, right? When you they decide your future.
It's kind of like the Tim Allen Santa Claus movie where you have to kill another headliner.
Got it.
You push them off the roof.
I'm listening.
And then you become and I'll be a headliner until somebody kills me.
Fair point.
Probably going to be
one
of these guys.
I'm not spry enough
Stand-up comedy is like the Sith.
Right. It's exactly what it is. Yeah. It's very cutthroat. It's very rule of two.
Rule of two.
I mean, the headliner thing, it's like in LA or like at the Comedy Store, they can make you regulars at their club, and so you're performing, so you can be considered one of the 16 headlining acts that's doing it. But it really is a gradual process. I mean, I later this month, I'm going to be featuring for my friend Eliza Slesker. We're going and doing a run of theaters in Canada. So, but as far as being a headliner goes, it really is once you can put together a 45 to 60 minute act that's going to do well, that you're confident, that isn't just like,
not just me going, hey, my new album's out right now, it's 60 minutes of me off the top of my head just doing crowd work.
You'd be surprised at how many people
slam poetry.
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised. I have a lot of friends that have done that. So you've done that for 4 years, but dialing it back. So Ken, you're also a stand-up. You're going out with him on these shenanigan tours.
He pulled me back in. I hate stand-up comedy. And so
Ken's gonna be hosting the show tonight.
Watching it or doing it?
Yeah. Well, I hate watching it, but I hate doing it more. Wow. But I started doing
again
it.
hosting tonight. The entire show. It's going to be super great.
This is the guy that I put the care of my show in.
No,
really get the energy back up. You guys having a bad time? Good. Great.
Good, because that's what stand-up is.
I got into stand-up about 2003, and so I did it off and on for about 10 years. And it just, I actually do love it. It's a great art form, and people like him just kind of have perfected it, and I kind of walked away. And then he has this stupid belief in me, and he's been slowly pulling me back in. And a friend of the show, Josh McCouga,
never heard of him.
his arm hair. Yeah. We started going back on stage together.
I've seen his back hair, too.
So
that's when you really know Josh.
You know how I know I'm in comedy now? I've gone on the road now with Mark for a little bit. Yeah. Josh and I have had to share the same bed together.
Oh, that's my dream.
Classic.
It is.
That's my dream.
We formed the pillow wall.
I wouldn't need a pillow wall.
He was a wildie.
That pillow wall would be more of just like an implied barrier, but it wouldn't actually be like physical.
If you and McCouga shared a hotel bed together, the next morning it would just look like a dead Wookiee.
So hairy.
There's just so much discarded hair. I mean, you look at McCouga's back, and it looks like somebody was experimenting with minoxidil, and it kind of went off the rails.
It's just oily, and there's hair everywhere. Like the time one of my college roommates decided to, he finally started manscaping his pubes, but he forgot to flush. It was like that.
Oh,
man, that was a spectacle. I was like, did the toilet just throw up hair? That's disgusting.
Did a rat die in here?
The stupid shit you do. I don't know that honestly I could exist partying with Josh for longer than half a night, because he doesn't have a cutoff.
No,
he doesn't end, man.
No, well, here's
There's
how.
no last call.
And I encourage everybody out there to do the research with your circle of friends, because everybody has a friend like this, and you can tell that they need to be put into an Uber or a taxi cab when they start lying. And McCouga gets to the point in the night where one time Ken McCouga and I were hanging out at the Comedy Store on the patio, and McCouga, in 3 different variations of drink, he gave us 3 different endings to the same story.
Yeah. But with full commitment to each version.
It was they were all good yarns he was spinning.
Yeah, you kind of know with him, because he starts getting the head bob, and he gets really hungry for like weird foods as if he's pregnant, like 2 a.m.
Nick, you and him are the same person.
You guys want a chili dog? We're like, it's time to go, Josh.
It's time to
go, Josh.
Yeah, he gets very he almost like reverts back to a younger, simpler Josh, where he gets very sweet and kind of confused a little bit. We had him here for our Extra Life, and he did Josh Brady, which was great. And that was about 5 hours into drinking. Yeah. And then someone got the bright idea, because we had a bunch of couples here, to do the dating game. And Josh doesn't...
The newlywed game.
The newlywed game, that's what it was. And Josh doesn't necessarily know... He didn't know the rules to that, and was so confused that at one point, I think he started to cry.
And one of the contestants almost literally got in a fist fight.
But Josh, he was like, and then he looked at me, and I'm like, come on, Papa, let's go. And I just sat him over in the beanbag, and I took over for him.
But then he did the classic McCouga thing, where he just kind of recharged for a second, was quiet for about 30 minutes,
changed from
and
money
next thing you
pants
know,
to
I see him
pants.
with a bottle in his hand, and I'm not saying like a beer bottle, like a bottle of Jack.
Yeah, he's like one of those new Samsung Galaxy phones where you lay it on the charging pad 10 minutes, and that thing is full juice,
just in,
ready to go. See, I'm a different kind of drunk, because I'm the kind of drunk that I know now, thankfully, through years of experience, and various stints in jail, I've learned how to know when it's about to happen. And so I will Irish goodbye. I call it a drunk ninja, where I just, as soon as it's time to go, I'm not saying goodbye to anybody. Yeah. I'm just,
you don't want that.
I'm out. Before you realize I'm gone, I'm already in bed.
Good. Wow. That's my style too.
Yeah.
I don't want that confrontational conversation. I don't want to be because there's always one guy that doesn't realize the night's already ended.
Yeah.
And they're like, come on, do you want that? No, I don't want, no.
Yep.
You don't want to be the guy that's still around the Moon Tower when Tuesday's Gone is playing and the keg is tapped.
Exactly.
And it's 5 in the morning. I realized that one time I drove home, and you should not try this, kids. I drove home hammered, and from the Comedy Store, and I stopped at Burger King because, of course, this is back in the heyday, the Tender Crisp sandwich. And I was big on the Tender Crisp sandwich, and I get back to my shoebox studio apartment, and I don't remember how long I was awake for, but I woke up the next day around 11 a.m. passed out on the floor. Mind you, the bed is right there. Yeah. And I'm like, 8 feet, can't make it.
Can't do it.
So I lay down and I passed on the floor, and it's the saddest state to wake up because I woke up, the TV was off, the lights were off. One bite was taken out of the Tender Crisp sandwich.
Still good.
And the fries were still standing and like popping fresh, like a cool kid's hair.
Yeah. Like the fucking Game of Thrones throne.
Yeah, everything was just so, and it just looked like one bite, and I was out, and the chicken sandwich felled me.
Man. How much do you drink before shows? Like, what is your like good level?
Never.
Wow.
Never before shows.
Before a show, he's like a pitcher throwing a no-hitter. You don't want to talk to him. It's like the 5th inning. He knows he's got it. Just let him do his thing. A lot of times he doesn't even show up to the club.
No.
Or he'll show up and he'll tell Josh and I don't want to be there at the start. Just get the show going. And you just have to let him do his thing.
I can't tell if you're being serious or not.
No, he's being dead serious.
Really?
I just don't like seeing the crowd as a collection of individual human beings before the show.
Yeah.
I don't want to see them going in. I don't want to see the line outside. I just want to see them once they're settled into the club environment. And because I also don't want to have an interaction with an audience member. Like if I do, it's fine. Say hi, take a picture, whatever. But I like to see the show happen from a distance. I like to see it start, and then I can maneuver my way backstage, which is why sometimes, because I love watching Josh and Ken go up, or like I'm excited to see Ken in your sets tonight, but I'm not sure where I'm going to be at that time.
Got it.
And it's not really because I need to like get my mic, get psyched up or get in the Zen state. It's just what I prefer to do.
Sure. I get that.
But there's 1,000 different ways to go up, and there's 1,000 different ways to prepare to go up. And I realized a long time ago, like if I want to do this every night for the rest of my life, I should probably not have anything that's like too taxing of a routine. So I didn't want to drink before a show, because if I become that guy that's like, oh well, now I need 2 beers before I go up every time, I don't want to rely on anything, and I want to feel it. I want to feel the nerves. I want to feel the energy, because at some point you're going to have to do a show where you're not going to be able to
do the thing you normally do.
And you're gonna be faced with that wave of nerves in a different way for the first time, and you don't want that to happen on TV or when you're overseas doing a USO show. There's no alcohol around, so it's best to practice from the beginning the way you're going to be approaching your career.
So how early on, how did you deal with the stresses of this? Because this is not exactly the easiest, least anxiety-inducing career that you've chosen.
No, it's not. But like I don't know, for whatever reason, I got lucky that I never really suffered from stage fright.
Really?
All that much. I like performing.
So even at the beginning,
of
when you first started doing like the first few things, you were just like, I'm pretty comfortable on stage here, or
yeah, I mean, I wasn't necessarily,
because I think my back went into spasm the first couple like shows.
Really?
Yeah, I'll never forget the first time I did Cobb's, which was like the biggest show I'd done, and probably still had done. I was so nervous until tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And by tonight we mean 4
by tonight we mean
ago.
last year.
No, but I mean, I'd get so nervous for such a long period of time that literally the muscles in my back cramp up before I go on stage.
Well, you were facing a different challenge than I faced when I started out, and it's a challenge that Ken faces too, is that people know who y'all are when you're going on stage now. And when I was for the first 8 years of my career, nobody had the faintest idea who the hell I was.
Right.
I'd done some TV and stuff like that, but nobody knew who I was, so there was no set of expectations. But if you are doing a show and your fans show up, or if I'm doing a show and Ken's on it and they know Ken's there they're like, oh, I'm going to get to see Ken, that's a different set of expectations, because these people know exactly who you are. And so you have some sort of, and it's all, BS, but you manufacture this need to please people who have a set of expectations for you.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I go back to the documentary Comedian with Jerry Seinfeld and Colin Quinn talking about how stand-up's the purest form of like justice. Jack Nicholson could get on stage, one of the more beloved characters and actors of our time. Within 2 seconds, if he's not funny, he's not funny.
Right.
I witnessed that prior to the incident, but I hosted a couple shows with Michael Richards, and. It was
What incident are you talking about?
I don't know. About 2 weeks before it.
Oh, man.
And standing ovation at the Hollywood Improv because it's Kramer, and he got up there. And he was finding himself. He was improvising through a lot of things, and it wasn't working. And the crowd had this weird like, that guy I loved ain't funny. And it was a different kind of turn versus just a stranger. Like, I don't know, this guy's not funny, and whatever, I can chuckle. It's a weird pressure.
It's so weird you bring him up because I actually had a fair amount of very positive interactions with him in the months leading up to that incident because he was coming around the clubs a lot, but he was never really a stand-up comedian. He did a lot of improv and a lot of sketching. He was obviously great in TV and movies, but doing stand-up is a different thing where you can, and I've seen it in the biggest names that aren't necessarily stand-up comics. They'll get on stage and they realize very quickly this is a different sport I'm playing. You know, it's like you could be the best football player of all time, but now you're on a basketball court.
Is that something you see specific? Because you guys are at the store. Like, you're at the store almost every week, right? At this point, if you're not touring.
Yeah, when I'm in town.
Do you see that fear in people's eyes who maybe don't have your pedigree of 10 years of stand-up?
Yeah. I mean, I won't name any names, but there was
definitely name. No,
there was.
I was like, how would you name it?
What's funny is Dave Chappelle when he went to South Africa and took a break for a while, right? And then he came back. One of his first shows back, he put his name on the marquee. Maybe the first time he advertised he was going to be doing a show after that incident.
Jesus, I bet that
comes
was
back.
Packed.
Main room, it was packed. Bruce Willis was there. I think DiCaprio was there. There were a bunch of huge names in the
Was
crowd.
this
awesome.
the Netflix special?
No. This
must
was
have been the start of him coming
2009,
back.
something like that.
Okay.
And this is in the main room. His Netflix special is in the belly room, which is still that was a great special. by the way.
Great special.
So but he has some people open for him, and he had this guy go on for like 25 minutes, and it was just too long, and the crowd was getting really antsy, and they want to see Dave. And then Celebrity X comes out to do what was probably going to be a 10-minute spot, 3 minutes in and out. Just got the look and out. But one of the cool things about that night is that the next comic was not Dave Chappelle. The crowd was like, okay, now it's definitely Chappelle. And it was another opening act, and it was a very funny comic who's on The Daily Show now named Al Madrigal.
Oh, yeah.
And Al did one of the most impressive things I've ever seen on a stand-up stage because he went up in that room, was not wanting anybody but Dave Chappelle. Al comes up, and within 3 minutes, they realize that this guy is throwing heat. This guy's a great comic, and look, we're here to see a comedy show. So they were riding with Al, and Al ended up getting a partial standing ovation by the end of his set,
Wow,
by the end of
that's
15
awesome.
minutes.
That's great.
And then Chappelle comes up, and it was a really cool, like it was like you take nights like that, and that kind of encapsulates a lot of the experience that you get when you're a comic because you see the good, you see the bad, you see how somebody was able to take one situation and turn it into something else by the end of their set.
Right.
You know, you see what the temperature in the room is, and you're able to diagnose that situation and then do something with it.
I've worked in and out of pro wrestling since 2001, and I got to be there for one of Roddy Piper's first stand-up shows, maybe the first. And it was a weird night. My friend ended up presenting him an award for documenting the whole thing. Steve Simone met him, and here's Piper, who I go back to WrestleMania 3. He's coming out cutting beef carrot, Adrian Adonis in that match and everything that's going on, and he, you could see the look in his eyes that he was like, this is 200 people at improv is something I've never experienced. And he was talking to us later on, but I was the most nervous I've been. This is Piper. This is, in
front of tens of thousands of people.
Months later, I'm in
Right.
a wrestling ring with the dude in another thing we're working on, and that was you able to watch him just be himself. And he and Simone worked, and Simone would take him around doing stories, but he never did. I don't think he did stand up traditionally after that. You can correct me. He was always at the store hanging out.
Yeah, we got
He'd tell stories.
Yeah, we got to be pretty good friends, and he never was doing like jokes, but he would
But
tell.
that first night he was. The first night, my point is he was trying to
really?
do bits, and it was like, oh, but I do have a bunch of funny stories working with Andre. And you could see how it's a hard art form.
No, I mean, and again, from my very limited experience with it, I completely understand. I was so egotistical going into the first few times that I did stand-up that I thought I am a professional podcaster. No one else has that, right? I'm going to go up and I'm going to crush this. And because I just thought, I'm so used to, I mean, we've built an audience here who just likes what we talk about and our vibe in general, and so they follow us for that. So I thought, that's just an inherent thing to me, and that's not inherent to me because I went up and found very quickly that it is a completely different sport. You are up there, like we're here playing football, and that is fucking golf. Like it is completely different. And was that a sports analogy that I just said?
This is great.
Sure. I mean, I guess it works.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it checks out.
When I
It
start
checks
doing
out.
sports analogies, I black out, and then I come back, and people go, "It didn't work."
What are
You
doing?
brought in NASCAR and golf. It did not work.
That's kind of an interesting thing about what we do is like there's a lot of podcasting and stuff, but because of you, we've been really kind of brought into the stand-up world in a way that we weren't before. I've been a fan forever watching specials. Yeah, it's insane.
To a degree. Like there's a whole room of people next door that are doing stand-up with me in Austin, Texas for RTX.
Nice.
And they did not want to.
Yeah.
It took some cajoling
Trial by
and some
fire.
bribing because I want them. I like the shows that we do now are a little bit different than what you would walk into traditionally with like a normal stand-up show. Like tonight, you got people are going to come, and then there's going to be a lot of the audience that's there for you that doesn't know me. And to me, that's going to be a fun challenge because I have to win them over. Maybe they've seen me a little bit here and there in some of the stuff you guys have done down in LA on the Schmoes, but they're not expecting much out of me, so I'm gonna have to win them over.
That's the fun part of stand-up to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is to me, and as great as our fan base is, and I wouldn't trade our collection of fans for any other fan base in the world. It's stand-up to me in its purest form is still you're going on stage in front of complete strangers.
Yeah.
And it's your job to make them laugh.
But it's almost like so the shows that we do, obviously, like the show that I'm putting together in Austin, for instance, is the Funhouse people, the Rooster Teeth people, the Achievement Hunters, the Kind of Funny guys, like all of our influencer friends. And for some of them, it's actually going to be their first time ever actually doing comedy. So it's a very distinctly different vibe in that the audience is coming knowing that. They're coming to see us try something and support us.
Yeah.
And it's we did it last year. It was super fun. But for me, there's zero pressure because they're just there to be like, we're just there to watch someone. And honestly, even if you bomb,
you have years more of experience than anybody else.
It's really cool though because he's been doing this for a while now, like 2 years. It feels like
about 2 years.
The full 2 years.
Yeah.
I've seen him do his show maybe 50 times and like bomb, do great, just kind of like show up to an open mic versus hosting events, like all that stuff. So I get all of the in betweens. But when we put on the show, where part of the documentary you did, Waiting for the Punchline,
Right.
in that was we're gonna all do our first time doing stand up, even though we don't necessarily have interest in.
So
doing
you're gonna do a set.
Yes,
they've done already. So we
last year.
We did a documentary through Rooster Teeth called "Waiting for the Punchline."
Oh, right, yeah.
Right. It came out. You guys can see it right now on roosterteeth.com, or depending on when this is at, you can come to the Roxy and see a live screening on June 7th, unless this is past that, in which case that screening went fucking great.
Yeah,
it was
crushed.
fantastic.
I was so
I
impressed.
flew up for it.
Thanks for the invite. Thanks for
super
the
good.
invite. It was a lot of fun.
But no, as part of that, I was like, I really want to share this thing that I have now fallen in love with some of my friends that I know don't come from that walk of life, but I think in another dimension would have been great stand-ups. Not the least of which is like Elise Williams, for instance. I don't know if you're familiar with her or not, but she's at Funhouse and she is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you need to be on stage. It sounds so stupid for me to tell someone who's got hundreds of thousands of followers who does like they'll put out a video and get 1 million views on it.
Let me give you some
that
career
need to
advice,
go,
kid.
Yeah, let me tell you what you really need to get up there on stage and talk to 20 people at a time.
That's
what you gotta do.
Like the thing I always had in my head is I'm never going to encourage anybody to do stand-up. Like I'm never going to say, hey, you need to be on stage, but I will freely admit I'm the least funny member of my own family. Like my younger brother is hysterical.
So
my older sister my older sister can tell stories and crush at the dinner table. And they're great stories, and like I'm watching it, I'm like, this would work on stage.
Yeah.
But I can't be like, hey, you need to try stand up.
Do this.
I just look at stand up as something like you need to decide that you need to do it, and nobody else can really like steer you in that direction.
That's what was cool about this is that is not the case. It was totally like we're taking you guys and we're just gonna do it and see what happens.
It's a fun experiment.
It's totally fun, and we knew that the audience was gonna be a fan and gonna be supportive because they knew it was our first time.
And it's like because you see those in LA sometimes when they have like comedy classes,
Student shows,
and they do like their big graduation night.
Right.
Got it.
And our friend Jody Miller used to. I don't know if she still teaches a class, but she'd have me come in and like headline the show.
That's cool.
Like 10 people who've never done stand up before. They just wrote their first 6 minutes. They're going to go up and it's in front of all their friends and family, and it's fun. And
I used to host those shows too.
Yeah.
You'd headline, I'd host because he's more talented than me. And
I can't write books.
It was great because the audience is so like warm, kind of when you describe it in the comics. Be like so great, and they'd be like, "Oh, next week I'm going to do the belly room," and I'd just be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
You've got a lot of pain
good luck
in front
to
of
you,
you.
good luck to you." And my friend Peter told me, Peter Sprite got me in a stand up with Brian
he's
Keith
hilarious,
Etheridge.
yeah.
Yeah, Brian Keith Etheridge got me, and Peter told me, he goes, "The first 100 do not count. Don't, good or bad, they don't count. Once you hit 100, that's when the rhythm starts.
100 times going
100
up.
times on stage.
Wow,
yeah.
that's
That
insane.
sounds about right.
What was so cool to me
I think I'm at like solid 30. That sounds about right. Yeah.
is doing the show for the first time, seeing all of us prep for it. We all prepped so differently. Whereas me and
Right.
Kevin kind of took a more like studicious approach, where we like would watch stand-up comedy and understand like setup, punchline, trying to write jokes, trying to craft it, and trying to mimic what we see in specials and stuff. Whereas Greg Miller is just a natural storyteller, so he didn't give a fuck and didn't try at all. He just went on stage and told stories because that's what he does. That's his style. Whereas Andy was a bit more like just weird and like
Yeah, it's very fascinating because when you throw people on stage and say, hey, in about a month you have to do 5 minutes of material, right? You start to see like where their inclinations draw them, and so Andy is very much like a Mitch Hedberg, right? Like he's very like, I'm going to just tell you kind of one-liners and be very dry and like. And so you start to see people sort of like where they gravitate toward what kind of comedy they like. But then it's hard, like, and that was me too. I was like, oh, I'm going to try to mirror or emulate this specific style. And boy, when that fails, it fails bad. But so I don't even know at what point you do find that, and I don't want to say voice for lack of a better word, but I guess like at what point do you find that rhythm of going, oh, this is my thing. This is who I am.
I mean, I'm still finding it.
Yeah?
It really is. It's like golf, Nick.
Oh.
See, there you go.
It's a good one.
Because you're always retooling stuff. You're always thinking, like you see golfers and they're always like playing with like a new putter or like a new drive. They never quite master it. Like this is not a sport where you say, oh, okay, I'm a 10th degree black belt. I can leave now.
Right.
Like you're always working on it, and the problem and the beauty of stand-up is that once you have perfected it to where you have this tight hour, this tight 65 minutes, and you're just murdering, you do it, and then it's out there in the world, and now you have to start over again.
Yeah.
And now you have to do the whole thing again and start from scratch. And that's the greatness of it. And when sometimes people get it overnight, like there's a famous story about Sebastian Maniscalco, who's one of my buddies who, is now selling out Madison Square Garden for shows.
Jesus.
He was on stage at the Comedy Store, and the legendary piano player and curator of the Comedy Store, Jeff Scott, was telling me that he was watching him on stage from the corner, and Sebastian was trying to this just wasn't quite working.
I imagine his style specifically is really hard to develop.
and he locked into it. One night at the Comedy Store, he was on stage and he found it. And it was like it's like Double Dare. You're just digging through pudding, and then you find that red flag, and he just found it. From there on, he was like, oh, now that doesn't mean he went on stage and just murdered every night since, but he found what he was looking for. He found his voice. He found his style. And for some people, that's a very gradual process. And I honestly, I still feel like I'm very new at it. I've been doing it 15 years, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of what I actually know about myself on stage.
It's so funny though, because I think Tim can speak to this too. Like I've dragged him to every fucking show you can possibly imagine in San
It's
Francisco.
a very supportive friend, by the way.
Very much.
But in the same way, I believe in him. He's funny.
Because when you started as a comic, you do these things called bringer shows. And I was able to get through the bringer show thing very quickly, not because I was
By
better
the way,
than
they
them.
don't tell you it's a bringer show.
No, they never do. They
Like,
just
and this
invite
is
you.
the one thing that you have to figure,
Right.
and then you have to just figure shit out because there's a bunch of guys that'll come, their promoters, and go, "Hey man, you had a great set right there."
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Oh, this guy believes in me." And he goes, "Why don't you come on? I want you on this showcase, and bring some people out for it." And then after the fourth or fifth time, someone says, "Bring some people out," and then someone goes, "That's a bringer show."
bringer show.
And you go, "Oh, they don't think I'm funny.
And you lose friends
They just know
real
that
quick.
I've got a fresh group of friends out there
Yeah.
that have not burned out on my shitty dick jokes yet."
So
Sorry.
if this is your professional bringer,
He is my
This
professional
is-
bringer,
yeah.
for sure.
That's true.
But no, one of the things that's fun is seeing, because when you're in the thick of it, you can't see how you're progressing. You just kind of go, I'm doing this I'm grinding every day, and like maybe I'm getting a little bit progressively better. But one thing that's cool is when Tim will come out every like 6 months, and he's used
3
to
weeks.
being kind to myself, but he's used to a certain level, right?
Yeah.
And so like the first time I took him to at Punchline, we do the SF showcase, which is, from what I can gather, sort of like I guess I don't know if it's like potluck. I'm not quite sure if that would be It's sort of like the development track for newer comics, but it's not an open mic.
Yeah, it's probably the because Pollock in the Comedy Store is notorious for it takes all kinds.
Yeah.
But then after that, you have the friends and family portion, which is like comics who are around but aren't paid regulars at the Comedy Store yet, and that's probably what the level is.
So the showcase, the SF showcase on Sundays at Punchline it is paid regulars for the most part. I think half of it, but the other half is people who are on track. So it's basically a development track. And so I remember taking him the first time, and he saw some people that he had seen go up with me at mics, and they did okay. And then he saw the people that were on the next level, the guys that were either past at Punch or right on the cusp of getting those first few auditions.
Right.
And he was like, holy fuck.
I mean, dude, no, it was crazy because, seeing the open mics, which are just god fucking awful, some of the worst things I've ever seen, and it just keeps happening.
That's my face every time I'd have to host a stand-up show.
Oh, man, it is. It's bad. But then going to the Punchline, it was like...
And there's never a lack of open micers, by the way.
Holy shit, this is insane. Everyone's going up and killing it in a way that I've could have never imagined these open micers made it to. And then you keep going and I see a bunch of Cobb shows and it's like, people that I've seen on do specials or whatever. And you're like, you're either funny or you're not, or you're funnier there or less funny here, doesn't matter. But then to get to the point where you're seeing people just effortlessly do things, and the big one was you.
Yeah.
Both you guys actually, when the Comic-Con show
see you guys at Comic-Con.
that I went to.
Yeah.
So I saw you
at
the store, and I was like, Tim, you got to come see Mark because he's on like the level of people that he's seen so far. I'm like, you don't understand. He's on just a completely fucking different.
When did you see me at the? At
I saw you at the Comic-Con
main room.
I saw you in the main room.
Right.
And then when we came and saw you do, which I assume you were starting to do development for your hour or your latest special that you filmed. I think a lot of that material you were doing at Comic-Con, right? Or was that mostly just
No, that's the thing is Comic-Con, your shit was
right.
like 99% Comic-Con jokes.
Yeah, I had a lot of Comic-Con references in that one. Yeah,
and it was so
fun.
impressive because it was like, this is obviously not your set that you use every day because you couldn't do that to a normal audience. So I was like, whoa, the way that you just kind of would flip back and forth, I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah, we were talking about that at one of the radio stations that Ken and I did this morning, where it's like, because of the fan base that we've been blessed with, a lot of them will understand like deeper movie references than you would like if I'm like doing a Saturday night in the main room of the Comedy Store. I can maybe do an Avengers Endgame joke, but I'm not going to be able to get deep into.
But you can't make an Iron Man 2 joke.
I can't make an Iron Man 2 joke. I can't make a Thor: The Dark World joke. I can't reference Malekith and have them know what I'm talking about. But at certain places, you can get away with that, and that's fun because that gives you the freedom as a comic to talk about exactly what you actually care about talking about. But it's also a fun challenge because sometimes fans who know me from Schmoedown or whatever, they want to come out and they want a lot of movie stuff. And that day I feel like talking about our crappy president, or I feel like talking about my breakup, or I feel like talking about this new date I went on. So there's other things that you're always going to have to win an audience over. It doesn't matter how much they love you or what they want you to talk about. If you can win them over, then you can take them wherever you want to go.
And that's what I thought was really cool about the show you guys did, was you coming up like really blew my mind in terms of being a stand-up comedian, but you guys kind of being the hosts and the openers, it was different than anything that I've seen because it was you and Josh. And it reminded me a lot of like if it was just me and Nick, we have this podcast chemistry that we can kind of just bring the energy up and have fun, but it's not stand-up comedy.
It's 100% different. I started in radio. I've been podcasting for a while, and you guys are spectacular what you're doing. That's the
super
that's the way.
super professional.
That's the way you do it.
I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry.
But
now I'm just making more noise and talking over you.
That's awesome.
Sorry,
what a pour!
I love
That's a great pour.
Cut to Nick and Tim have no shirts on. Just drinking tiger.
No.
Sleep on this side of the table.
That's not the point. The point to say it is I think you would agree that even what you're doing now is you're entertaining. You're being yourselves. You're selling yourselves. You're selling your brand and connecting. But you're still entertaining and you're still performing on some level. And I think stand-up is an extension of that. I think where some people might fall down is where you just don't. Putting the microphones in front of you doesn't make you a broadcaster, right? We've all seen that, and the skill rises to the top. And I think stand-up, you have to know how to. It is a different game. And Josh and I, fortunately, we've had a lot of experience working together, podcasts, Schmoedown, all that kind of stuff. But that was the first night we did it. And we weren't sure. We didn't plan a word. We didn't plan a word, and luckily it's worked out.
So that was the first time. You guys have done it multiple times since, right?
Yeah.
What was What was your inspiration for doing this? You're like, hey, I work well with these guys on camera.
Yeah.
Let's take them and throw them to the sharks as far as like.
Well, I know.
As far as an live audience.
We were both jobless.
Yeah.
Makuga used to do comedy a lot too, like a lot of stand-up. Right?
Yeah. Makuga used to do stand-up a lot, and he still will occasionally, do something, be sporadic about it. But I was like, look, you guys host the afternoons together. It'd be fun because Ken was one of those comics where he would make us laugh a lot. And I think Ken would just sometimes get down on himself a little too quickly.
On stage.
Or turn on the audience and just kind of bail a little too early. Yeah. And it's like, no, just keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, it's pro maneuver is you get super angry at the audience and blame them. That's what I've started doing.
I'm a little
If
Larry
it doesn't
David
go my
in that
way,
way.
I'll just jump right into the audience and start fighting them.
I had a friend of mine, a guy named Hayes Hargrove, who was on stage at the Improv one night about 30 seconds into his act, just went, not tonight, and just walked off stage. It's my goal. I'm going to do that. Not tonight. Not going to do it tonight, Mark. But
you can do it tonight.
Do it tonight.
I always thought like do whatever you want. I never. The only time I ever would talk to anybody open, and I was like, hey, do this. Don't do this. Was just when I was taping the special, just because I had a certain thing I wanted to open with, and I didn't just want one overlap there. But we had a little pregame meeting in San Diego before their show that night at American Comedy Company, and I wasn't like, hey, what are you guys going to do? But the burning question inside my head, which I didn't ask, was like, what are you guys going to do? Because I want them to do what they want to do.
Sure. And
so we was just kind of talking about what the run of show was going to be.
Yeah.
So when you go on the road and you go to clubs, they'll give you openers occasionally, right?
Yeah. Sometimes they give you local openers.
Right. And do you ever pull them aside and go, hey, don't do crowd work or don't do this or don't do that?
If somebody... Never initially, no. Like if somebody did a bit that's like exactly like the story that I'm going to close with or the closing bit that I have, I would just tell them, hey, I have a thing like that, but I've never had that situation.
Okay.
And I've heard horror stories of headliners and I've had that happen to me as somebody opening for big names where they like hey, don't do crowd work and don't be too dirty or don't do, and it's like.
It seems weird.
I get it, but it's also like I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You go do your thing, and because probably you're going to be a lot more successful than I am, and I want you to have a good experience working with me.
I just always hate when, even in music, when there's a bazillion openers and they do the thing where it's like they make the audio sound worse than for the main event. Yeah. And it's just like, I get the idea of trying to make the main artist sound better and be this moment. But then we're sitting here or standing listening to this fucking shitty artist we don't even want to hear, and it sounds like garbage for way too long.
Yeah,
and it's I've seen it in comedy too.
Sometimes it's like, a local band and it's like all their friends and family there. All right, so here's the line as far as music goes, and this also allows me to tell a story about the mighty Van Halen. Is that when Van Halen was on their first, it was their first headlining tour, right? And Rick Derringer was opening for him. Rick Derringer used to be in Edgar Winter Group, and he had that song. Then he went solo and he had Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo.
Okay,
so he's touring. He's the opening act for Van Halen. And Van Halen noticed something that Rick Derringer, who is older than Van Halen, probably thought these kids think they're headlining. He would start closing his shows by noodling on his guitar and then playing You Really Got Me, a cover of the Kinks' You Really Got Me, which was Van Halen's big hit off their first album at that time. And so they kicked Rick Derringer off the tour. You can't go up there and close with You Really Got Me when we're, So if somebody's doing You Really Got Me and I want to do You Really Got Me, that's the point when you have to have a conversation.
Right. So coming back to it, you just finished recording your special. How was that?
It was a night.
Is this your first special?
It was a night. This is my first special, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So what I'm happy about is that I think that we had two great shows.
You did.
We had two great comedy shows.
So you guys did two shows.
You
recorded two shows, separate nights or
one
same
night?
One night.
One night.
And this is pretty characteristic of a special taping, right?
Yeah,
you do a
usually
couple shows just because you got the crew there.
The crew's there. You rented the venue out. Do two shows
as many as you can to see which energy is better for which show, right?
Yeah, and you think, okay, let's get the first one in the can and have that be a safety,
right?
And I'm not sure what it's going to look like because we're still just barely scratching the surface, getting into post production and editing and looking at it. But the night itself was just such a trial. It's like I didn't get to enjoy any of it.
That's not a good.
It was because again, both shows sold out. Crowds were awesome, but everything going on behind the scenes was just such a frustrating mess. Because I was self-producing it, and I'm taking and I'm the one that's taking all the initiative, and the venue was just kind of a nightmare to deal with from a number of different angles. from there were a couple staff there that were really nice and were trying to help us out. And then they booked, it's a rock club, and they had an annex room where they had a band booked.
You're kidding me.
And the band wasn't scheduled to do sound check until X, and this all is coming at me a week before the show.
Oh no!
That they even had a band booked there,
right?
Because I initially got a call from one of my team, and they're like, "Hey, so just to confirm, first show is going to be at 7:30, and the late show is going to be at midnight." And I was like, "What did you just say?" Because
like, no.
the late show is going to be at 10.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, we
right
got this
after.
band, we got to work this out. And I'm thinking, shit, this is going to be a sound nightmare. So towards the end of my first set, the audience could hear, and I could hear on stage.
No.
You could hear sound check. And so I'm already pissed off because they're not supposed to be sound checking yet.
Right.
And then the band plays their shitty set, and while we're taking a break, but that pushes my show start time back an hour.
Oh no!
And keep in mind, it's not like I'm waiting to catch a plane. These are people who thought they were going to a 10:30 show,
Right.
now having to wait an extra hour to 11:30 to start the show,
Yeah.
and I have to entertain them.
Right.
Nothing better than starting off with a cranky audience.
Oh my God. And
Just
so
love it.
That can't hear you over.
Right. So we had to start the show with Ken and Josh going up, and Jay Washington and Joseph Scrimshaw, all great comics, and they had to compete against the sound because the goal was to have me hit the stage as soon as that band is done.
Yeah.
For the second show.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And so I started the second set, which might make, I kind of hope it makes it special, just ripping on the band for 5 minutes.
Good.
Because
It was supposed to wrap at 11 and
world's
Rock and Roll
worst
Baby.
garage
They went to
band.
11:40.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. The owner of Reggie's called and is like, "Hey man, do not make that band rap early." And it's like they did one show in the small room,
Yeah.
and I did 2 shows in the main room,
Right.
and sold both out.
I am priority.
And you're telling, Papa Tuna next door that they get the priority over me? So,
Roll, baby.
I don't know anybody in the band. I'm sure they're fine individuals, or at least were back in their day.
But as a whole, fuck them.
yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, because they're doing that rock and roll thing where they told us to turn the sound down, but these amps go to 11. And it's like, fuck
They don't.
you.
They don't
Yeah.
want us to fucking turn. Yeah, I understand. So I mean,
It was a lot of crap like that.
I kind of sympathize in a way. I mean, just as far as the energy, because you want to go. I would imagine the mindset you want to go in with is, I'm just going to walk on stage, do my thing.
I just want to be a
else.
comic.
Yeah. And the reason I say that is because when we were doing the documentary, one of the things that I had not anticipated was I was introducing the crew to the entire San Francisco scene, which means that I had to kind of by default help produce the thing, which meant that I had to then deal with the owners of the clubs and the bars and the things and explain what was going on and wrangle talent for them to come interview.
Right.
So by the time I would get up to go do my set, I was in. It's not that I'm using that as an excuse for why I bombed miserably in this throughout the entire documentary. That's just my talent. It's more of. I got in the producer mindset, and there's that's not the mindset you want to be when you're going to go on stage. You want to be in that flow, fun comedy. Anything can happen. Who's taking their pants off right now?
Yeah.
Like moment. And I was in is the camera right? What's lighting? I don't like this sound is terrible here. This is not going to be good. I'm not going to look good here.
Yeah, you get hyper judgy, and you don't want that to happen on stage.
Yeah.
And so I think I maneuvered it pretty well. Like once I got up there, I was able to, you know that there's things happening, but I had a great crew. The crew was awesome.
Now, how'd you find them?
Some of them were from Collider, and then some of them I just knew.
Okay,
and
so you pulled from the guys that you kind of shoot with normally. On
It was a
weekly basis.
real. It was like the A team. It was like we got to make a call. We got to get everybody in a van.
That's awesome.
And let's go. And
That's what we do.
They were awesome, man.
Always.
Every time we do any live event, it's like, oh yeah, we should film it.
Right,
Let's
right.
do that. Yeah, let's get all our stuff together.
Bring
Yeah.
good folks.
Nice having
And it
you
came
guys.
out beautiful. I was watching the monitor backstage. He has nothing to worry about. It was a
Do
beautiful.
you
looking
do
thing.
you so did you take that material? How long did you tour that material before you decided to put it down on? On celluloid.
I had the hour done probably. Celluloid.
Come on, I want to make it bougie. It's bougie.
Mark Ellis, star of stage and screen.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I probably was doing that hour for bits and pieces of it for a long time. For probably 5-6 years.
Okay.
And then it became like the fully formed hour probably, I don't know, 9 months to a year out. And it's 80% there. And then there's even stuff that I had done on stage that I did for the special that I'd never done on stage before.
Wow.
Like there's a Star Wars run that I do in the special that I'd never done before. But I was like, this is funny and I'm pretty sure this will work. So let me wedge it in there.
So how much are you going to then? Did you overshoot? Did you shoot like hour 10, hour 15, and then you're going to come that
I think
back
we
to 60?
did 65 the first show,
Okay.
and then I did like 75 the second show.
Okay.
I want to say. So I'd probably like it. My ideal landing spot would be 65.
Are you
minutes.
inclined to take And I don't know if this is like uncouth or not, but are you inclined to take parts from the first show and the second show and mix them together?
Absolutely. It makes it better, yeah.
It makes it good. Because I always wonder that. I'm like, I see them shoot, like people will shoot like 3 days in a row, and I'm like, there's got to be a cut in there somewhere.
Yeah, right.
We're smoothing out the audience a little bit. They were sweetening it up a little bit, and then we cut to the shot where they're laughing, but you're like, I don't know if that joke made that much laughter. And then we're coming back, and they're like, I'm not quite as sweaty on my brow right now.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that. It's going to be every crowd reaction shot is going to be the same guy just dying hysterically. Literally the same. It's going to be. We're going to use one laugh for every joke punchline.
Stock footage from like the 1978 Oscars.
It's not even the same. Yeah. Well, actually, one of the things that I thought was, because we watch every special that's out, and one of the things I thought was actually pretty funny about Schumer's last special was there's a post-credit scene, like during the credit, they actually show,
scene.
I was going to say post-credit scene.
It's crazy, man.
I heard about that.
There's a moment where they did, during the credits, they just show that she had to stop and like someone had to come out and put because she's pregnant.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I'm like, duh. Yeah, I'm sure shit like that happens where you don't want it to ideally. I'm assuming you want ideally to just start and finish your hour and craft that.
There was a moment in the second show where I had to stop and address
Yell at the band.
some audience members, because there were two drunk British guys, and they were like whispering to each other a lot, and like kept leaning over, and it was distracting. But usually, like you play over it and it's fine. But they just had this look in their eye where I'm like, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
So I went into them and I got in and out pretty clean. And then later in the show, I think they got up to like use the bathroom or something. And then I started ripping on them as they leave. And then we immediately filled the seats with two new people. And I was like, don't let them back in.
That's awesome.
It's the one thing the club did right the whole night. Or so we thought.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they were.
You turn back and they're just sitting on the laps.
They were at the bar next door. After Papa Tuna had wrapped their show, these idiots were out drinking at the bar until the bar closed, to the point where we're walking out as a crew afterwards. And those guys are trying to take pictures with the crew. Because it's
big fans.
Yeah.
Well, at least they weren't. At least they didn't try to fight you. That's what I thought that story was going.
Because judging by the look of them, they would have won. Big British. They look like they play rugby. You know? I'm not getting. Don't get in a fight with a rugby player.
No, definitely not. So if you're doing the two specials in the same night, what would the ideal version of that look like to you? Doing them right back to back, or would you want like an hour break in between?
I think I want it to be
or a day break in between. Would you rather have Saturday than Sunday and then move it out?
In retrospect, I would have rather done the first show, taken about a year, and then gone to Hawaii and then come back and in a rested Zen state of mind and done it. But I think about an hour is a nice. Whatever a usual break in the show, like when you're on the road and you're doing 2 or 3 shows a night, it's usually about an hour break just to get the audience out and then get the new one in and get them situated and get them, drinks and stuff like that.
We also did a meet and greet in between, which was somewhat insane. So.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
Probably wouldn't do that again. Because, and then actually the fans were great, and they actually but it was weird because it was like the fans from the first and the second show, whoever bought meet and greet tickets got to go to that meet and greet. So I'm meeting some people before the show starts.
Violating that Ellis rule.
And as we covered, I don't really like to see the audience before the show. But everybody was so nice and they were so excited to be there. So
it takes it out of you, though. The meet and greets, like doing
meeting
that,
people is a lot of energy.
It is.
That's what I think. And it sounds silly to say because you're like, what? You're just talking to people. But when we do meet and greets, I am fucking dead the next day.
Yeah,
it is.
Maybe the next day, like right after it ends.
Yeah, we did New York. I was telling you guys before we started rolling that we did a meet and greet in New York, and it ended up getting a lot more people than we had anticipated out. And you should have seen us at dinner that night. We walked right down the street, found the first place that served tequila, and we were all just drinking margaritas, staring off into space. And I was like, "Don't talk, no talk. I don't want to hear another fucking word out of any of our mouths. I don't want to talk. I don't want to think about." And it's not because we didn't. We had a blast, but you just give all your energy to these people. I can't imagine. I was saying to you guys, like I had toyed around with the idea of maybe trying to jump on someone's show in Vancouver, and I'm so glad I didn't, because even after just the 3-hour meet and greet with a couple cocktails midday in Vancouver, I'm like, I am PJs and peanut butter cups and ready to go to bed by 9.
I mean, the right meet and greet, I'll be fine all night. Like the right meet and greet after a show, because I'm high off doing 1 or 2 shows, and then the meet and greet, and then I'll ride for the rest of the night. The next day, I'm not speaking to a soul. Yeah, because that's my general state anyway. I'm kind of like a caveman in that I like to just sit and stare at a TV.
Afternoon naps.
I love my naps. So, but I rationalize it all as like I'm just saving energy for the show that night. Again, none of us are working in the coal mines.
No.
But
no, this again, we're all complaint. I mean, any complaint that I have, take it with a grain of salt. I love all the stuff that we get to do. It's awesome. I'm just an old ass man. So Ken, coming back to you. So you're hosting tonight. right?
Hosting tonight.
And
yeah.
you normally have another chucklehead next to you that can help you out with those duties.
Yeah, a good chucklehead.
So what's your direction for hosting this evening? Are you gonna do more material based stuff?
I have some stories planned. We'll see how it goes. That's confidence for you right there.
Actual stories, or
I got stories, bits, but I used to find that when I struggled back in the day in finding that voice, and that is a true thing you have to kind of do. I would get lost in. I'm very funny on air, on radio, podcasting, or stage, sketch, stand up. I felt like I have to do bits, I have to do jokes, I have to do everything down to a punchline, and you have to find your own style. I think it's all that in a different way. You're telling jokes and bits and punchlines, but how you get there is different. And mine was too locked to what I had written, prepared, and I would be nervous before, but excited nervous. As what Mark was saying, there's be a lot of times you could see me crumble mid-set, just mentally. I shouldn't be up here. Like, I shouldn't do this.
I've had that feeling.
And not even just flop sweats, but just like, get off stage, go to therapy straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm past that now as a performer, but this is a big challenge to see if I can just tell stories on my own.
Has being out on the road with Mark, it reinvigorated your sort of wanting to do more stand-up? Like,
Absolutely.
do you see yourself, because you're in LA, you guys are in the hut, like the mecca of stand-up right now. Fuck New York. You know what I mean? No, I'm just kidding. I have a lot of friends out in New York, but I mean, honestly, you guys are in one of the best places on the planet to do this, and I imagine if you've got the ability to do it, like that could get addicting.
It is. I do miss, doing it back in the day with him and Harloff and that gang.
Oh, right. I forgot Christian used to do.
And Christian was great. And doing it every Sunday, we'd have a show. Thursday, we'd have a show, and just the shows in between. I miss that, the brotherhood, the sisterhood of your performers that you see every week. Everyone's grown up.
Shared misery.
Shared misery.
Is lovely.
Absolutely. Everyone's grown up and gone on to their own big things, and it's been fun to watch. So that I miss. We'll see if I can take the psychological beatings that sometimes happen on stage.
Strength.
That's
well, they always say
we'll
with an elderly age comes a lot of strength.
Yes.
Right. That's not a term.
Well, as I advance in age,
he's got old man stage strength.
Well, as I advance in age, I'm always like, Dangerfield was like 92 when he started.
It's true.
Getting
he
big.
didn't get big till he was like 117 years old. So Mark, what are next steps with the special now? So you're going to cut it, post it, then do you shop that around?
Post it. You shop it around. Yeah, I have a couple meetings lined up with various distribution platforms. Some of which are pretty nice names. And then other ones are like, oh, this feels like a nice fit. There's a very good chance I just decide to either release it totally myself or just chop it up on YouTube and release it as bits, because I've had comics. My buddy Josh Wolf recently released his special, and you can watch it in like 8-minute segments on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it does very well, and it's gotten a great response.
It's weird to me, right? I've seen this a lot too, because obviously when you first start, you're like the material that you generated, you think is just the most priceless thing on the planet.
Yeah,
you don't realize that
it's your kids.
Yeah, you don't realize that it doesn't really matter, especially the first couple years. But I've seen a lot of people now who are at a high level go, no, actually, it's actually counterproductive, like counterintuitive, but put your stuff out there. Even if it's stuff that is currently in your act, getting it out on YouTube can be a very, very powerful thing.
Especially for me, because people still they'll if I just met someone or they know me through a friend, they'll be like, oh, I just saw some of your stand up on YouTube, and I'm like, God, what did you see?
Yeah, when the fuck did I put up?
Because I put one TV set up on YouTube in my life, and that's it. And there's other YouTube stuff me long time ago. And I'm like, what are you watching on YouTube? So I think I just need to get some stuff on YouTube. What I'd actually really like to do, given the fact that this night became such a story in and of itself, is I'd like to do a behind the scenes, kind of like a documentary thing, and release that too.
That'd be
cool.
So just,
I say do it all, man. That all sounds great. It's like, that's the way to do it.
And I might be filming the shows in San Diego at Comic-Con for something else, for another project. So
sweet, love it.
So got to get that beard on the stage at American Comedy Company.
I mean, the beard goes wherever you want the beard to go, my friend.
Should be a competition between you and Makuga that like whoever loses has to shave before they do a set that
Here's
night.
what we'll do. We'll oh, that's a good idea. I like that. I'll do it. No, not shave, but it has to shave a mustache. You have to have a mustache for a week. I would do it. I'm looking for a reason to shave the beard.
That's
actually,
good.
That's not actually. Yeah, I was trying to convince my wife. I was like, should I shave my beard? And she's like, absolutely not. Under no circumstances. You look terrible without a beard. And I'm like, okay.
Do you look terrible?
I look not as good, I would say.
He does look. I saw a
We all
picture of
look bad
you,
without beards.
and I saw a picture of you that you posted from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Beardless.
And with a shaved head.
Looked like a different human being.
Yeah, I would
Not
like my brother.
necessarily a bad looking human being.
Just
but
different.
a very different human
I
being.
think I actually looked older back then than I do
Dude,
now.
it's crazy.
I know. It's nuts. All right. This, I think that covers all the topic. Do you have any more questions?
No, that's it.
Fantastic. We're gonna-
friend
The
zone.
bottom line here is kids never try stand up.
Actually, no. I'm sorry. I did have one more question. So you've been doing it for, would you say 10 years?
15.
15 years.
Yeah.
What, and this is such a silly question, but what like kept you going? Is there anything for people out there that are maybe 2 years in, 3 years in? What
Fear of this battle station.
But what did what maybe their milestones, things that people be looking for that can keep them pushing forward? Because
It's a bad answer, but it's the right answer. It's as simple as the feeling that you got off your last set. It's literally that simple. It's not like, oh, I want to do my first Conan, or I want to do my first special, or I want to be a paid regular at the Laugh Factory. It's just that what always kept me going was those are great goals to have.
Sure.
And it's really just, I want to do this show tonight. I want to do the show tomorrow night.
take it day by day.
I love the sport of stand-up comedy. I'm a huge fan of it, and like there's a lot of people that are funnier than me. Like most people usually are funnier than me, but I love doing it, and I have such a blast doing it. And at this age, I can't learn a new trade. You know,
I think that's one of the things that I've had to come to terms with for my own self.
we're not going to be good at anything else the rest of our life.
It's not that I won't be good at anything else, because I think I could probably spend 10, 15 years and be a fairly decent accountant. It's just that who, after all the shit I've said on podcasts and on stage, who in their right mind would hire me? You know, like, everyone's always like, oh, you could totally run for... I'm like, I'll never run for Senate.
No, we're not getting into politics now.
How are you going to start that sentence? Everyone's always saying you can
Because
totally
they see
run.
me
No one's
as
ever
a leader.
said that, Nick.
I am a leader among men.
Community
Good
organizer.
Lord.
Do you understand? I could start locally. I could be whatever the local district guy is.
Whatever that thing is, I can be that thing.
No, I can't do anything else. There's no fucking way,
I do like the
man.
idea of
There's
Nick and
no
I
way.
quitting our jobs and opening an accounting firm,
Yeah.
right? Because eventually we're going to have like fans who knew us when they were kids
Yeah, they'd come to us.
coming to us with their taxes, and they're going to look at us like the look that Ty Cobb and Shoeless Joe Jackson shared when Shoeless Joe had been out of baseball for 15 years, and Ty Cobb saw him at a pharmacy. He's like, wait a minute, people are going to come. They're going to be like, oh my God, you're the kind of funny guy.
And then they're gonna go like this. We're not coming to you for our taxes. Give me the shit back.
elsewhere.
I've heard a
I'll
lot.
deal with the IRS. Ken, before we get into the next segment, though, I do want to talk about this book that's sitting next to you. What is happening with that?
Thank you. Sorry, I get to do my cheesy plug
it. Here, I'll
hold it
of
for
that.
you. I'll hold it
Woo,
for you.
that's my book, Why We Love Star Wars, The Great Moments About the Galaxy Far, Far Away, out now, Mango Publishing. Star Wars is my jam, my brand, my thing I do, and got the opportunity to write this. And it's 100 essays on my favorite moments and themes and emotions being a Star Wars nerd.
That's awesome.
Is the part where Luke does this to R2-D2 on the skiff, and R2-D2 gets the lightsaber ready and he shoots it? Because that's the best moment in Star Wars history.
That's on your list. That'll be in your book.
I will write a book.
but I do,
Just for that.
if
I do
Nick
have that-
shaves, I will write a Star Wars book.
That's perfect. I do have that sequence in the book. Yeah.
Because R2-D2 is like the most clutch figure in the history of Star Wars.
He's a
Like the
hero.
Force,
Blue and white.
it's
Love the
adorable.
outfit.
Luke,
The Force
Han,
is adorable.
It's
It's cute.
so
It's so cute.
what y'all are doing with your lightsabers.
Yeah.
Nobody survives those movies without that droid.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
A lot of truth to that.
I'm a comic. Truth is all we have.
That's true.
It's our only
Everything
weapon.
that comes out of my mouth, if you see me tonight, is going to be 100% true. And none of it is made up bullshit or stolen from other comics. This next segment, we like
It's
to
my
call...
act. It was so weird.
It's so weird. He's got a joke about Batman. It's crazy. This next segment is the segment we like to refer to as the Friend Zone.
Oh, yes. What is this, Nick?
This
been
is
there.
where you out there, the Patreon supporters, get to ask our guests question or us questions if you guys want. But spoilers, you know everything about us at this point, so it's fun. And of course, we reached out ahead of time, got some fun questions for you guys. The first is from best friend out there, Carlos Jimenez, asks Mark, what is the toughest thing about being a successful comedian?
When I get there, I will let you know, Carlos. You'll be the first letter on my postcard list. The biggest challenge being a successful comedian. Man.
It's so relative too, because I would look. I mean, obviously you are a very successful comedian, but the fact that you are like past and performing at the Comedy Store right now is such a fucking unbelievable accomplishment.
It's really cool because the Comedy Store lineups are just insane.
Do you when you walk in there and you go, I've heard about this back bar, and I assume you go there, and it's just all sorts of cool celebrities.
Have you not been there?
No, never.
Okay. You can come.
Me. Okay.
You know a guy.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Ken and I go there all the time.
I don't deserve to be there.
Next time I'm in LA, where you're going to go, so when people ask, like, I snuck in with him, he's not going with you, 1 degree of separation. But does that blow you away, the fucking lineups that are happening right now?
They're great. They're great, and I'm lucky enough to where I'm just so entrenched in that place, and that I started out there, and that's my home club. That you don't really get a sense of it. It's one of those things like you'll reflect on in 30 years when you're telling a post-apocalyptic set of grandchildren, the story of when Pop used to be a comedian, before the wars.
But you've been doing comedy for so long that you were there during the harder times of the Comedy Store.
Oh,
right?
yeah. We had some lean years there too, where Eddie Griffin would come in and do 3 hours on stage, and Paul Mooney would be on until 5 a.m. and it's like, Mr. Mooney, I want to go home. You're a legend. I want to go home.
But that in and of itself is inspiring for a lot of people out there, because you did those years and now you are reaping the rewards of that.
And that's one of the things that does keep you going too. It's just the fact that you get to be on an exciting lineup like that. It's like, oh, well, I better bring my A game.
That's so crazy.
I think the hardest thing about being a comic is figuring out time for the rest of your life, which luckily, Carlos, I don't care about.
Yeah.
I don't care about a relationship or health,
friends.
I really, it's just, and that actually becomes a hard thing about doing stand-up, is that you need to challenge yourself with things outside of your comfort zone. So for me, that's like interacting with other people and traveling and stuff for vacation. And so I need to start doing those things because that helps generate material. But I can't, I'm not there yet.
People keep talking about these things called kids.
No,
they keep having.
No, thank you.
I don't understand this.
Don't want
Foreign thing.
I watched Big Little Lies, on HBO.
Yeah.
Finally caught it. A great reminder to never have a family. Great reminder.
Ken, this next question is from you. It's from Pedro Escobar. It says, Ken, what's your take on Star Wars fandom in 2019? Can Disney do anything to bring any positivity back to the community with the new films, or are we forever just going to be polarized?
Wow.
You got the hard question. He got the one that was the softball. What's it like being awesome?
Why we love Star Wars.
You got to solve everything about Star Wars right now.
Here's the thing. I think a lot's changed, not just in Star Wars, and this isn't a discussion about what you feel about the films. I love what Disney has done, not just in the films, but new canon and the books, the comics, and everything that's come out. However, I think we're in this time with fans. When we started doing the Schmoes podcast in 2011, when you guys were starting doing it, you might remember that it was like, we're having fun, and we could poke some fun at Star Wars, but we still love it. And now there is this, here's Star Wars, and now here's, you shouldn't like this, they did this wrong, and we try to tear it down to the point of why we still watching it. I still steadfastly put myself in the lane of, here's Star Wars and here's why I love it. Here's another thing I think's cool. Here's that, and I build up to celebrate something. Otherwise, why are we doing it? You and I we talk Robotech. That's something we watch. We love Robotech. We could talk about it because we grew up with it and it's nostalgia, but it's fun. It's a great story. We're not sitting there going, yeah, but that one line of dialogue, why did they do that? And that character, why did they bring that in? I think the perspective has changed. Plus, everyone, we're in this, hyperbole and headlines and clickbait and all that kind of stuff, and it just fuels it. So sometimes I just remind Star Wars fans, take a breath. Find what you love in Star Wars if you love it, and just celebrate that. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about everything else. Celebrate what you love in it.
Yeah, I think people need to remember that Star Wars was never universally loved. It just kind of felt that way because not everybody's opinion was out there in the world on social media. Right. And now we're in an age where nothing is ever going to be. Are you saying
the original 3 Star Wars movies weren't the best movies ever made?
How dare you, sir? But there's always going to be that one person in any comedy club you can be crushing. And there's always going to be that one person sitting there that's not having a good time. Yeah. And that's who we focus on, and we should not focus on that person.
Yeah.
We should focus on R2.
Absolutely.
The real hero.
The hidden hero.
He's the Robert Ory of a galaxy far, far away.
Spencer from Canada, which I assume is Canada misspelled, says, how has your definition of success changed as you've helped grow the Schmoedown as well as your own personal careers? And what's your favorite part of what you get to do?
You have a definition of success?
It's changed over the years. I was just talking about this the other day with a friend of mine named Van William, who's a singer-songwriter. Was in a band called Port
That's a cool
O'Brien.
name, by the way.
Van William, yes,
Yeah.
it's a great name.
He's got a
Rock
cool
and roll,
look,
baby.
too. Cover his albums,
He's
awesome.
a cool dude.
Yeah. He gets
Album out,
checks.
Countries. Look it out. Last year, he's working on a follow. He was in a band called Port O'Brien. They got some success, and we were talking the other day, and he had to get kind of a day job recently, and that was kind of a blow to the ego, right? You're a rock and roll star, and you've been making money off that for 10 years, and he just needed a little help, and also found something he was interested in. He got a job in politics, helping out with some campaigns, and we were talking, and I said, but we have to realize that's okay sometimes, and if you need to do it, you're taking care of your family, and also, and he's like, yeah, you know what? All I want to do in life now is know that I can still make music. As long as that's there, that's success to me.
Yeah.
I don't need to be, he's friends with all the guys in Dawes and all the, all these cool rock things, and because I just want to be able to make my stuff. Right now, there was a point where I wanted to, go to the toppermost of the poppermost. Now I have a studio in my house, and I'd love to wake up every day and have my friends come over and talk, and hopefully that keeps me going. And if I have to go back to manage a Del Taco or something, or work at your accounting business, it's okay.
You're welcome at Ellis and Scarpino Accounting whenever you'd like to come, sir.
Yeah, we'll handle your Del Taco's books. No questions asked.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been fine with that 10 years ago, when I was in a day job that I wanted out, and I wanted and I wouldn't have. I'm more grateful for what I have now.
I mean, as a athlete that has put up 4 championship trophies in the Comedy Store Rec League basketball trophy case.
Natch.
My goal has always, whether it's stand-up or Schmoedown or anything else, it's just when you play pickup ball, the only thing you want to do is stay on the court, because that means that your team won. So you get to stay, you play a new team. I just want to stay on the court. I just want to play as long as possible, stay on the court, and that's the only goal I have in life, is to just keep doing this.
When he does the sports thing, it's like,
he knows sport.
Mark, are you there? Mark,
Yeah.
are you there? He's with us.
Yeah.
He's with us.
Or the definition of success is having yourself on the back cover of your own book
With your girlfriend's chihuahua?
with a dog. That's what you
chihuahua.
want. That's the dream. Why we love Star Wars.
2 more questions for you guys. And
In
then,
Barnes & Nobles and Walden Books now.
There you go. And then we'll wrap this up. Lexi Gunner asks, hey, Cisco, any upcoming songs with artists you haven't worked with yet? We were going to have Cisco on the show later today, but I don't think he's going to join us. But I'll put that question out to you guys.
Yeah.
Let me shoot him a text.
That was mostly just to see if I can make Tim laugh with that. And he's just shaking his head.
It's one of those things where you started reading, and I was like, I've already read these questions.
Yeah.
I was like, did
Is he
Nick
gonna
just
do that?
fuck up so
No,
bad?
no, I just
Like,
wanna have fun.
is he trying to be funny?
I'm trying to be
it was
funny.
the latter. It was
Yeah.
the latter.
Are we going-
I'll give you a laugh.
Are we going to the Cisco show tomorrow or no?
We probably could if you guys wanted to, if you're
Okay.
still around.
All right.
Yeah, they're by the way,
Leandro's
Cisco
far.
fucking destroys it still.
Oh, I bet.
Like he is. We went to his wedding and they performed there, and I was like, I want 2 more hours.
You
of
went to
this.
his wedding?
Yeah. We're really good friends with Cisco.
That's
You have
the
This whole
definition of
show
success.
was based on him.
It's-
We're like, I guess we can call it that
It's
now.
mostly just to tell other people that we know Cisco.
Can
That's
I
the whole
put?
point of this show.
Can I put on my resume that I am Cisco's understudy?
Yeah, you absolutely can.
Like we couldn't get Cisco, but we got Mark.
We got Mark. We got
Cool.
Mark and Ken. You 2 together make half a Cisco.
I'm sure that's going to work out at the show really well tomorrow too. Cisco's under the weather, but here's some jokes. Hey, who saw Avengers?
A lot of crossover in those fans. Last question comes from someone named Greg Miller. It says, what's it like working for Josh McCouga?
Senor McCouga,
Yeah.
the Overlord, the Taskmaster.
So notorious and so big. It's such a big deal that he couldn't even be here this
Mr.
weekend.
Pittsburgh,
because he had a wedding instead.
Yeah, Mr. Pittsburgh,
here.
they call him. He's a demanding boss, a fair boss, a loving boss at times. He demands the best. And if you don't deliver, you're going to have to deal with it later on. You also have to enjoy Penguins hockey, Pirates
Yeah.
baseball, Steelers
Sounds
football.
terrible. That all sounds
He's
terrible.
going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's never left a visible scar. I can say that for him. And hanging out with McCouga is worth it simply because once you get past the layer of Josh, the rest of the McCougas.
Very heavy.
What a time we had!
Oh my gosh.
At their wedding,
John and Deb McCouga,
John and Deb
his parents.
McCouga, his
brother.
brother
Of
is
course,
great.
John and Deb.
The cousins
it.
are fantastic.
Yeah.
The uncles and the aunts of the cousins are fantastic. If you get through Josh McCouga, Josh McCouga, you know when a pudding forms a skin,
Yeah.
and you got to
gotta
really
break
put some
through.
elbow grease into that.
You gotta kind of scrape it off, and then you go, I don't want any part of this pudding anymore.
one of our best friends, we just described as pudding skin.
He understands. He gets it. He
He's
fucking
the
gets
bruise
it.
on the banana you cut out, and then his family's what you enjoy.
Listen, Josh is going to
breakfast.
listen back on this, and he's going to count the sheer percentage of time we spent talking about him, and he'll smile.
Yeah.
We probably talked about Josh McCougar during this more than any one of us.
No, he's probably playing this on his TV at home. He's probably got no shirt on, but he's got like fancy like stormtrooper suit pants,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
and he's got some sort of wacky socks that don't match, and he's calling Amanda from the other room. And he's like, "Come in, babe. They're talking about me again."
Exactly.
We love you, Joshy.
And one day you'll let us actually hang out with your wife, Josh. Because one day.
Every
We've never met her.
time we're this
never met her.
close, and then there's always some bullshit
She's
excuse.
cool.
You
Yeah.
gotta file the paperwork. You get it in early on time, and you get it.
There's a recreation. There's a rec form, some sort of form. Whatever. What the fuck? Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today and coming up to Northern California, gracing us with your presence up here in San Francisco.
It has been a pleasure, boys. Thank you for the burgers.
Where can people follow you guys?
Have at it.
You can go at Cat Napzok or catnapzok.com. And I'm hawking the book because Daddy's got to pay some credit card bills.
Let's do it.
Just follow me there. And thank you so much for having me. You guys,
Hell yeah,
this is
man.
real fun. And talk about success, building your own brand and your own empire. As tough as that is, I really admire what you guys
Why
are doing.
did you not
Appreciate
reach
that.
out to me to do a quote? on the,
Because
I'm
you,
just now realizing
you and
this.
Harloff are in the acknowledgements.
Oh, are
and
we?
I wrote
What's
nice
acknowledged?
things in there, and I figured that's enough ego.
Yeah, well, I don't want to cry on camera, so I'll just say at Mark Ellis Live, you can get tickets for upcoming stand-up dates, markellislive.com. Houston, Vegas, maybe all these dates have happened. We just don't know. But what I can guarantee, San Diego American Comedy Company, July, it's the Thursday of Comic-Con.
Beautiful.
2 shows, maybe a Scarpino shows up.
I'm at Nick_Scarpino. This
Maybe
is
a
at
Gettys shows
Tim
up.
Gettys. Ooh, that would be fun.
I mean, if Nick's on the show, that means Tim, by law, has to
I'll
show
be
up.
there.
That's
I'll
fair.
definitely be. I will not go on stage.
How dare you,
No,
sir.
no.
You guys can absolutely watch this show every Monday at 11 here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames live as it's happening, unless it's pre-recorded like the last 4 have been, in which case you can watch them live and then we'll be in the chat. And then we'll also go over to youtube.com/kindoffunny. Subscribe. You can get them there. If you want to be a part of this show, of course, go over to patreon.com/kindoffunny. Back us at the bronze tier or above, and you guys can submit your questions for future guests, and we'll do a little bit, I'll give you a little bit more lead time next time than 1 hour before these guys come on.
Please
This is
submit
my-
your
minutes
Cisco
before this is
questions
my
for
first-
every episode.
There has to be a Cisco question now for every episode. Until next time, keep making friends, everyone. We love you.